Welcome to RickRackRuby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will make this Patchwork Santa from a pair of mini charm packs. He's fun and easy, so let's get started. To make our charm pack Santa, we'll start with a couple of charm packs. This Moda red dot green dash is one of my favorites, but just about any charm pack will work. You just have to make sure that your pack has enough reds. They never do. That's why I'm going to start with 2 packs, and I'm sure that I still won't have enough reds, but I'm going to do the best I can. Let's start with the legs. I've chosen green for the little shoes, stripes for the socks, and then 2 reds for the pants. I'll seam them together here, here, and here. I'm using red thread. My seams are pressed open, and now I will fold them lengthwise, matching the seams, pin, and stitch, leaving the top open, and I'll stitch along here, around the corner, and all the way to here. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I think I'm going to draw a line just so I can show you what I mean. I go like this and around this corner here. And here's what this one looks like. And now I will repeat for the second leg. There's my second leg. I'm going to trim a little bit off of this corner, not too much. And this one. A little bit here, a little bit here, and then I'm going to turn these right side out. I'm using a dowel to help with the turning, and I'll use the same dowel to help with stuffing. That looks good. Now I'm going to press these. Now I'll stuff these very firmly up to here, and then I'm going to stitch across right here in the center of this red, the 3rd square up. I'm using this dowel to help stuff. One end of my dowel is smooth and the other one is broken, and that really helps to grab onto the stuffing. That one's ready. It's nice and firm all the way up to here, and then this is still flat. All right, so I'm going to sew across. I'm going to pin with the seam on the side and then stitch across the center. I'm pinning like this and then stitching right across there. I back stitched at the beginning and the end. Now I'll just try to match this up. And stitch in the same place. The legs are done, and now we'll do the arms, which are very similar. Sew those together, kind of like the legs. Boom, boom, boom. I use some spray starch on these too. Now I will match up those seams, pin and stitch just like I did with the legs. Start at the top, 1/4 inch, and round out. Now I'll trim out these corners and turn the arms right side out. Now I'll press these and stuff. And I'm going to stuff nice and firm all the way up to this seam right here, and then I'll stitch across here for the elbows. Now I'm going to keep the seam on the side and stitch across the center of this middle section. There we go. The arms are done and the legs are done. So let's start on the hat, the face, and the body. So for the hat, I need 3 for the front. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to select the lightest white for the face. I could go with this one or this one. And I think I'm going to go with this green one because I feel like the red spots on the face might look like chickenpox or something. So we'll go with green. And then I need 4 for the body front. This is going to be partially hidden by the beard. So I'll put this one, which is my least favorite, up here. This stripe is awesome. And then the snowflake. And there we go. And remember, we also need a back because the body is stuffed. So I wish that I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 more reds, but I only have 3, which I'm going to use for the hat. Right now I'm going to piece these together for the front. I'm going to switch to white thread and sew the center seam because I know that if I use red thread right here, then the red will show in the seam, and that's the middle of his face, so I don't want that. So I'm going to press these seam allowances open and then switch my machine to white thread. I switched to white thread to sew the center seam, and then I press these seam allowances open, and then I sewed this last little red patch to the top to help form the hat. And now I'll press this seam. There's the front of the Santa, and now we'll create the back. I only have 3 red squares left. So I'll use these for the hat. And then for the back of the head, I think I'll just use the same. And then for the back of the jacket here, or the body right here, I'm going to use green. I think it's my best option because it's just kind of fun when you see the project from the side or from the back that you see a fun contrast back there since I don't have enough reds. So I'll just sew these all up, press the seams open, sew these together, and then add this square on at the top. Now we have a front, a back, 2 legs, and 2 arms. I'm going to set the legs with a seam to the inside. There's about 1/4 of an inch to the either side of the seam. And I'm going to go ahead and let the edges extend a little bit above the edge of the body just to make sure that I get that caught. I also like the way that this fabric with the big dots is going to sort of flow into the pants. And the same thing with the shirt. I think it should work out where the stripe runs into the stripe. And I'm going to just baste across there to hold those for now. Seams are to the inside. And again, this is the front. And then for the arms are on the diagonal. We want the arms to be coming out of the shirt, which is here. So this is extending about 1/4 of an inch beyond the edge of the body. And then when it's sewn, we want it to be like this, with the seam down and on the diagonal, about 1/4 of an inch below this seam. And this one the same way, with the seam down, 1/4 of an inch below here, about 1/4 of an inch extended beyond the edge of the fabric. I'll pin and baste. This is the part that's easiest for me to mess up. So I just want to confirm the arms are down and the seams are down, and that looks right. So I will trim out this little extra here. Trim that even with the edge of the shirt or the body. So the limbs are basted, And this is the front. This is the back. Now, in order to make the hat, I'm going to mark the top center, and then I'm going to draw along, actually I'm going to do it on the front, but I'm going to draw a diagonal line from the top center out to the edge of the hat. And I'm going to stop at about 1/4 of an inch above the seam. I'm actually going to draw it on here because I will be sewing from this side. Okay. That looks right. Now I'll pin these right sides together, tucking the limbs in, and I'm going to leave an opening for turning. So I'll pin, 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 and then my opening for turning is going to be on the bottom side. So I'll leave it open from about this seam right here, just below it, to here, which is not a very big opening, but it's enough. I've made a few of these, trust me. And you can easily work the limbs through this opening, and you can easily fit the stuffing in. I like to use the smallest possible opening because sewing up the opening is just always difficult. Not difficult, but it's tricky to get it to look perfect. And the smaller the opening, the better it's going to look. So I'm going to pin. Now I'm not going to sew the bottom yet. So I'm going to leave the legs dangling out while I sew the top and the sides. I'm going to confirm that everything looks right. My seams are good on both sides. And here's my opening from here to here. See, I did sew about 1/2 inch at the bottom here. And now I'll go ahead and tuck the legs in and sew across the bottom. There's the back and the front. Now I'll trim this away and I'll turn it to the right side. Just kind of reach in, and whichever limb I grab a hold of, I kind of start with that, and then everything else kind of follows. There's the front. Cute. And the back. Very cute. And I'm going to press this and then we'll stuff it. My Santa is stuffed, and I sewed up the opening on the side here. And now we're going to create the neck. It looks kind of like just like a block figure right now, but when we tighten up the neck right here, he'll have more of a human shape. So I have a piece of this button and craft thread, and I'm going to secure it at the back center of his neck right here. And this will be covered by the beard, so I'm not too concerned about if the knot doesn't poke through, which it did. The knot poked through. And I will wrap around right on the seam and kind of draw it up nice and tight. Wrap again. This is why it's important to have the heavy-duty thread. Maybe I'll do it one more time. I'm keeping it right on the seam. And then, okay, that's 3 times. And so I will secure it in the back by taking a couple of stitches right through that back center. I'm using a thimble to push the needle through. It takes kind of a little bit bigger needle to accommodate the thickness of this thread. I think I'll sew it 3 times. Yeah, it's holding now, nice and secure. I'm going to embroider the eyes, although I did consider using buttons for eyes, which would also be cute, but I'd rather embroider them. I'm going to draw, I'm going to leave about maybe a 1/2 inch on the side of the seam and draw a little oval, and then a 1/2 inch on the other seam and draw an oval. That one could have been over a little bit. I think I'll try to put it over a little bit. I think that might be better. Okay. And then a little eyebrow and a nose. I'll do the nose first. I have 3 strands of red embroidery floss, and I'm going to start my thread in the back and push it all the way through the face. Oh, look, that came right out where I wanted it. Okay, at the base of one side of my drawn nose. I don't have to be exactly on the line that I drew, but just approximately. I'm going to do a fly stitch. So easy. There it is. Just a little nose like that. Now you could also do a little French knot for a nose, or straight line across, or whatever you like, but I kind of like the look of that, kind of an upside down V for the nose. Then I exited through the red because I'm going to make another French knot, and just in case the thread is going to show through the fabric, I wanted to put it on the red. I want to be sure that my stitches aren't drawn too tight. I want that that stitch to just rest on the surface of the face and not be pulled down. There's my French knot, sort of. Just a little knot, and then pop it through to secure. And for the eyes, I'll use 2 strands of black floss. And I will just satin stitch the eyes. I think I'll come in over here on the side. I'm going to start at the center top, right here. Gently pop that knot through. Okay. And then I will do 5 or 7 stitches. So that's 1, 2, now I'm going to secure this thread in the back. I don't want to stitch across because since the thread is black and the fabric is white, I just want to make sure that the thread doesn't show underneath the surface. Well, I wish I would have done that eyebrow, so I'll go ahead and do it now. I'm not going to put any kind of a fur around the brim of the hat, and so I'm not worried about stitching this eyebrow pretty close to the hat. Now for the second eye, remember I wanted to move it a little bit over. I think I'll start with the eyebrow this time. I'm hoping that it kind of matches the first one. 2 strands. Okay, now we'll blush the cheeks. I have just Cosmetic blush and this applicator, or you can use a Q-tip. Just a circle about the size of a quarter on each side. For the beard, I started with 3 or 4 4x6" index cards. And then I wrapped my yarn, this is just acrylic yarn, all the way across from one end to the other and then back. So there are 2 layers of yarn, but since it's front and back, there's actually 4 layers of yarn. I used 4 cards because sometimes when you're wrapping a lot, the card will bend up, and I don't like that. I like it to stay nice and flat. I keep my hand back here, and sometimes I wrap around my fingers just so it has a little extra play. Anyway, now I will tear the card out, and since I'm working with 4 cards, it might be a little bit challenging. It's also kind of deep to reach way, way, way in there, but I think I'll be able to get it out. I've got my trusty glue gun heating up. Of course, my sewing machine. I think I'm done sewing though. Turn that off. There's 1/2. It came out easily, and I do have 4 cards total. I should be able to just gently pull this one out. I don't want to be too aggressive with this because sometimes the loops will get wonky. All right, so the idea is that I'm going to glue this around, all the way around, so that the ends meet in the back. This is the exact length. Doesn't always work out that way, but this is. Then I'll apply a little bit more glue to that center and fold it down. And then I'll add a mustache. That's the idea. So I'll start by applying glue about halfway between the nose and the neck. So right there beneath the cheeks. Always go a little bit lower than you think. I'm going to start right across the front where I will glue the center of the yarn. So right about the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. And just press that into the glue. Just going to confirm that looks about right. Then I'll squeeze glue around to the center back. And press that seam right into the glue. And then the other side around to the center back. And I do have a little bit of extra here. It's hard to tell at first. I might have stretched it a little bit. So let's just confirm. Sometimes I overlap it. In this case, I don't think so. I think I'm going to cut off this extra. I have about 1 inch here. So I'll snip it in the center. And then, unfortunately, I always wind up having to cut the loops as well. All right. I think this is good. It looks parallel to the rest of the seams. So I will apply some glue here and then fold the top layer of loops down. This is not hard, don't be afraid. So I'll press that in. See, it's always lower than you think. And then start off lower than you think, and then by the time you get the yarn on, it kind of lifts up a little bit. I'm almost done with this part, and then we'll make the mustache. I don't want my mustache to be too full because I don't want to obscure the features. The face is the thing, right? Here's my yarn. This is just acrylic yarn. In fact, I'll tell you what it is here. Red Heart Dreamy. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Wrap this around the center, making a complete circle around the center of the bundle, and then tie it nice and tight with the second streamer. We'll see how that looks. Okay, in my world, with my thickness of yarn and just the look that I like, the wrapping 4 times is just the right amount. So I'll apply some glue to the back of this knot and carefully glue right in the center beneath the nose. I'm just gluing the center. I don't need to glue any of the other parts of the mustache. And you can see that the mustache is definitely distinct from the beard. These loops are a little bit shorter, and then the mustache lifts up above the main part of the beard. So that looks good. Now let's do the belt. I have this black grosgrain, which I thought was nice, and this little buckle. I didn't see any gold buckles, but there was a silver buckle in this little Sewology from Hobby Lobby. There's 2 in there. So I thought that would be really cute. We'll just do a buckle right in the middle of his belly, right over the seam. This is 3/8 of an inch wide grosgrain ribbon. So I'm thinking I could glue that, wrap, put it through the buckle. Yeah, I think this will work. All right, let's just commit. I'll pull this nice and tight to determine where this is going to poke through. And then I'll just use my seam ripper to poke a little hole right there in the ribbon. Then insert this little prong. I'm not sure what that thing's called. And then I can see here that this end is going to wind up underneath the buckle. Okay, I think that's cute. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue right to the center and secure the buckle. And then I think I'll trim the ribbon like this. A little bit of glue right there. And then maybe I'll glue this too. Yes, okay. Then in the back, just to make sure it stays right there on the seam. Great. That's really cute. And then I have this white pom-pom. It's cotton. It's one of the old-fashioned cotton kinds. It's more than an inch. I'm going to say about 1.25 inches, but you can use any size pom-pom. I'm going to get some glue right into the center. A generous amount of glue. And then I'll just squeeze this onto the point of the hat so that all of the yarns are kind of pressing into that glob of glue until I'm sure that it's nice and secure right at the top. I'm still waiting for my disappearing marker to disappear. So I think I might just touch that with a little bit of water. Here we go, he's done. Here's the back. And the front. His little belt, his little face, his pom-pom. Everything's really cute. And then before we go, I wanted to show you another one that I made in the same way, but with a different charm pack. So this is more of an old-fashioned looking color scheme. I did, everything's the same. So red, 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 I ran out of red, so I put in a couple of whites instead of the greens on the back. I did the black for the mittens and the boots. I did a little bit of white here, and I did a brown velvet ribbon with a metallic button. I did some off-white kind of curly mohair yarn and an off-white pom-pom. And then besides that, he was made exactly in the same way. So let's make them friends. Let's see, how's that cute? Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you're enjoying my videos, please like, share, and subscribe.